Hello, and welcome back to the next one of our podcasts celebrating 200 years of East Belfast Mission, then and now. The subject matter that we're going to focus on this podcast is around mental health and how East Belfast Mission has helped people with their mental health. Going back 200 years, this is not a service that we used and made available then. People very much kept things quiet. You got on with it, the stiff upper lip and all that kind of thing. And men particularly didn't really talk about their mental health. East Belfast Mission was brought into this sphere of help through the wonderful Eileen Care. Eileen was the wife of the Reverend David Care, who had a long association with East Belfast Mission. Eileen worked in the hospice and was a social worker, but really had an interest in people's well-being and mental health. And so she began conversations with Gary Mason about, could we start a service here? And so Eileen, with a few other people, started this Care Counselling. And we deliberately, while we spell it C-A-R-E, and she was K-E-R-R, we have deliberately kept care in the title of our counselling service. And we are a post-conflict community. There is underlying traumas still from the Troubles. But then in this 20th century and 21st century, there's also the other stresses and strains that people are much more tuned into their mental health. And so we're really glad to be able to help with that. Today's podcast is slightly different to the ones we've had in the past in that I'm delighted to welcome Patrick, who is a service user of Care Counselling, who has been very willing, and we're very grateful to him, to tell his story, because Patrick is one of the real successes of Care Counselling, and we hope by telling his story and him sharing his story, he will illustrate what we do and also help people who maybe are thinking about their mental health. So Patrick, you're very, very welcome. Thank you for being, I hate the phrase service user, someone who's been through the processes that Care Counselling offered to you.
Yeah,
So thank you for being willing to tell your story. We really, really do appreciate that.
you're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Patty, tell us a little bit of life for you prior to your engagement with Care Counselling.
I have, I was born with a disability. I have spina bifida, and as my life progressed, I became more disabled. I have osteoarthritis and a number of other conditions now. And being a child who is different is very difficult to deal with. Um, uh, in life in general, most kids rely on their parents for everything, and I was the same. I relied on my parents for everything, but I was still seen as different. And I was very aware when I was growing up that people um, avoided saying things to me or avoided inviting me to places because they didn't know about the impact it would have on me. I came from a family who was also involved in the conflict,
Right.
and I had trouble in school in that the needs of my disability weren't met in a way that they maybe would be today. So I was excluded from classes. I had classroom assistants in other classes, and I wasn't able to use public transport to get to school with my friends. So there was a little bit of exclusion there. And although I truly believe at that time people were trying to protect me, it still had an impact on my mental health. When I left school, I started working straight away. I worked for BT the Monday after I left school. And as soon as I went into the workplace, I realized that I was um, different. I didn't realize I was different. I knew I was different, but I felt um, the difference in the workplace on my very first day, because I realized then that um, there were targets to be met and um, duties that had to be carried out by everyone that I wasn't able to meet.
So care counselling give you those skills. Can I just take you back to sort of the workplace and the pressures? How did that affect your mental health, Patrick?
When I was a 20-year-old in work, I suppose, like most 20-year-olds, I was going to work and then socializing. Um, and for me, a lot of the socializing that I did was in a bar
Right.
or in a pub
Uh-huh.
with most of my colleagues. And I didn't realize it at the time, but the alcohol was probably a crutch for having to deal with the the way I felt, the negative feelings that I had, both internally and impressed upon me by other people. And I, as a result of those things and the alcohol, I ended up in lots of debt, lots and lots of debt.
Okay.
And as a result of that, it went full circle. I lost my job because of the debt that I was in. And that was, I suppose, a catalyst for me seeking help with my mental health, because my employer, you were kind of molded into that place. So that place became not just your employer, but your life.
Yes.
You did your work there, but your friends were there, and it's what you did for the majority of your life. And even a lot of the socializing that was away from your friends was carried out in work. So those things, as I say, brought me round to losing my job, realizing that I couldn't pay my bills, and wondering what I was going to do with my life, because my life revolved around that employer and I didn't have them anymore.
So thank you for being so explicit and so honest with us. It must be very difficult to go back to that place. So we'll not stay there too long. Um, you contacted social services then and a community psychiatric nurse, and she made you think about. Or sorry, didn't make you to. She suggested you think about talking therapies.
Patrick, there's something wrong. You aren't like this. You need to go and get help. And I walked to my doctor's surgery, and he asked me to go for counselling, and I said no. I had had counselling when I was 18, and when I went into that counselling service when I was 18, I thought that the counsellor was going to wave a wand and things would be better. And of course, that's not what happens. So he convinced me to go to a community psychiatric nurse because my mood was so low.
Right.
And I went and I seen this lovely lady, this amazing lady, who talked to me for a couple of months, and got me to a stage where she thought I still needed help, but not necessarily help from the community psychiatric team.
Right.
And she recommended this fantastic organisation called Care Counselling in East Belfast,
Like that.
and asked me to go. And because I had had those months with her, and I realised that talking to her was beneficial, I knew that if she was recommending me to this organisation, that it could only be a positive thing. You know, it would be difficult, but it would be good.
Just watching your face, as soon as you say the words care counselling, a smile comes over
Yeah,
your face, which
yeah,
was a lovely reaction just to notice with you there.
yeah.
So you've given a date, you're coming a time. What was your first impression as you came into the counselling rooms here in Skenos, and the work of East Belfast Mission through Care Counselling? What was your first impression?
When I was on the day, I was extremely nervous because it was, I didn't know if I was going to have to go back to the beginning again
Yes.
with my counselor. I didn't know anything about how it was going to how things were going to flow, but I knew that I was going. You know, there was no way that I was backing out of it.
Good man.
And I came along, I went to work that day as normal. By that stage, I had found work,
Good.
but I was still in desperate need of help.
Yeah.
Um, so I came here, and the lady who brought me into the counselling room and was going to be my counsellor
Uh-huh.
um, started talking to me in a very free flowing way, the way you and I are talking now.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know how things progressed, but they did very quickly. She gave me lots of reassurance at the beginning um, about confidentiality and
Uh-huh.
um, what would happen if I uh, spoke about this, that, or the other thing, depending on what it was, and where she was coming from. So essentially, she was saying, Patrick, before you set out your stall, I want to set out mine.
Okay.
And we both knew from the beginning that where each other was. She made a commitment to me. She said, Patrick, I commit to meeting you once a week.
Mhm.
And I want that commitment from you as well, because there's no point in us going into a situation where you come here for a period of time and then leave, and you haven't got the help that you need, and we've stopped someone from coming into the service.
Okay.
So um, I very seriously made that declaration to her that I would, as long as she was here to meet me, I would be there to meet her.
Very good.
And uh, that was day one, but and week one, um, and uh, and by week two, then I was looking forward to coming here. Literally, the second week, I was looking forward to coming here.
Good. Did that sort of contract, so to speak, of what she was offering to you and what expectations there were of you, did that help you feel safe in the environment to talk about your complexities and mental health at that time?
100%. I knew exactly, because she had made as I said earlier, she'd set out her stall. She'd made these things really clear to me about where she was coming from and and asked me where I was coming from. Um, I felt completely safe to say all of the things that I needed to say, um, and um, I didn't feel unsafe with her. I
Yeah.
just
Good.
didn't.
Good. Good. And that professional bond between the two of you was vital to it, that connection.
100%.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
was, yeah.
how long was that counselling journey for you, Patrick?
Do you know, I can't remember, but I think it was around 9 months. I think I
9
seen my
months.
community psychiatric nurse for 3 months, and I think I was here for
9
9 months.
months.
I think it took about a year altogether.
Meeting largely once a week.
Once a
A
week.
few gaps, I'm sure, for holidays,
Yeah,
etc., but
there was,
largely once a week,
yeah,
9 months.
uh-huh.
Um, can you have any recollections of those 9 months of progressions or little
Yeah,
little steps that were big steps? Some
100%.
some might see them as small, but for you, you knew it was a milestone as you journeyed on,
Absolutely.
Patrick. Can
So,
you share some of
yeah,
those?
so um, I think when I'm talking to friends about counselling, because I recommend it to everyone,
Yeah.
I think that we should all have it. But when I talk about it, I always say when I came here each week, I felt like I was leaving a black bag of problems.
Okay.
And at the beginning, by the time I was coming the next week, I had another black bag full of problems.
Okay.
But as the time went on, I felt that that black bag was getting less and less full.
Very good.
But it was very normal to go. My sessions were on a Thursday, and it was very normal for me to go by the time the next Thursday came along. I would feel like I was back at square one at the beginning.
Right.
So there were no. I knew that it wasn't a quick fix, and I knew that after one session or two sessions or three sessions, I wasn't going to feel good. I might feel good for a period of time after that particular session,
Yeah.
but I I knew that I was on a journey, uh, and that as long as I stuck with the plan
Yeah.
that this counselor had set out with me, I knew that there would be an end point where there was virtually nothing in that black bag, and I visualized that black bag the whole time I was here.
Okay. Okay. So you brought in this, let's take this metaphor you're using.
Yeah.
You brought this heavy black
Oh
bag
yeah,
in every week,
yeah,
and week by week, month by month, the weight of the bag became less
Uh-huh.
as you progressed in
Yeah.
the thing. It's a lovely analogy.
Yeah.
That's very helpful. Was there any tangible benefits, any markers, or going back to work, getting employment? What were the markers that you said this is working?
Yes.
I'm committing further to it because 9 months is a fair whack of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a period of probation in work,
Uh huh.
and I can't remember how long it
Yeah.
was, but I remember going in to my counselling session the week after my probation ended and filling in the forms. There are a few forms that you have to fill in, or I had to fill in anyway when I went to counselling every week. And it was essentially about how you were feeling, and it was 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And whenever my counsellor looked at those scores and chatted to me that day, she couldn't believe the marked improvement that knowing that I had knowing that I had job security, because I was still riddled with anxiety, knowing that my employer could just get rid of me
Yes.
at any point. And um, as I said earlier, me losing my job was the catalyst for me needing
Mhm.
mental health support. Um, so I was terrified of that happening again.
Okay.
And whenever I knew that it couldn't happen again, um, life just got better,
Very good.
But
That's
it did.
good.
But it did. But that day, although my counsellor seen a marked improvement in my mental health scores, it wasn't the end. It was, we were still at the beginning.
Yeah. Yes.
We
Yes.
still had
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
a, a, a,
Can
a
can
journey.
you recall any life skills and coping mechanisms that you learnt
Yeah,
through counselling,
yeah.
Patrick?
And to someone who's never been to counselling before, they might look at me and think that man's talking nonsense. But my counsellor had said to me, whenever I had a negative thought, I should, uh, I need to let the thought come through my head and get to the end of it. Um, I was trying to suppress the thought. So if I had a thought of any negative thought,
Yeah.
I would go, I don't want that thought, and that wasn't helping me at all, because that thought just gets bigger and bigger and bigger in your head.
Yes. Yes.
So you have to let it get to the end. And I, for me, in, in my head, I put it on a leaf and I watched it go down a river.
Not then. So I was an analogy that she
Yeah,
gave you.
yeah, yeah.
So talk me through that. So you put the thought.
In my head, I let the
Uh-huh.
thought come through my head, whatever it was, and I wrote it in my head. I wrote it on a leaf, a
Uh-huh.
large leaf, and I let it go down a river. And it's so strange because I can't act physically. I can't write because of my disability, but I
Okay.
was able to write it on this leaf
Very
and watch
good.
the leaf go down the
Yeah.
river.
Very
And
good.
and I still use that today.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the skills that I got from care counselling and from that counsellor, I still use to this day.
Very good. Very good. Um, most counselling services offer you sort of 6 weeks. Was it helpful to you to know that your counsellor was with you for the long haul for
100%.
9 months?
Yeah. There was no way, there was no way whatsoever that 6 weeks of counselling was going to help me.
Hmm.
6 weeks here with my counsellor didn't even break the back of where I was emotionally. It would never have helped me. I dread to think where I would be now if at the end of those 6 weeks, my counsellor had said to me, right, that's you done, thanks very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I understand that 6 weeks of counselling does help some people if they can relate it to one particular event in their life, and those 6 weeks might help them.
Yes.
But for me, it was a lifetime of trauma,
Yes.
and I didn't realize it was a lifetime of trauma until I started speaking to my CPN. I thought it was because I'd lost my job,
Yeah.
but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was, I'd lost my job. When I was in that job, I was drinking to cope with all of the struggles that I had in life, So the 6 weeks just wouldn't have cut it with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, we're talking about 2016, we think.
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, it's as I listen to you, Patrick, I think people would be surprised we're talking about 10 years ago,
Yeah.
in that it's still real, it's still authentic, it's been life transformational for you.
100%.
Um, as you look back in the 10 years post counselling, um, what would you say to someone who may have been either a short term trauma or a lifetime of trauma like you experienced in your early days? Um, what would you say to that person? Here's the Patrick before, and here's the Patrick now. Can you contrast the Patricks?
I I can, and others can, but the Patrick that some of my friends see and the Patrick that I see now, that they see now, is different in a different way. For me, I think my life has um, improved exponentially. You know,
Uh-huh.
it's life is so much better now, and I beforehand I was uh, fun loving when I was out having drink
Uh-huh.
and getting drunk and having fun with my drunk friends. Um, but now I'm sober and happy.
Okay.
I my life is so much better than it was, and that's not to say that on my last day of counselling, my life was perfect. It
Yes.
wasn't. What my counsellor said to me on my last day of counselling was, "You now have the tools
Yeah.
to continue to better your life." And she was right. So when I left counselling, and even today, I have bad days today. You know,
Mhm.
um, it's normal for people to have good and bad days in their lives and to have very bad days and very good days.
Yeah.
But it's about having the skills to be able to understand why you're having those bad days and what you can do to make them better. And it's for me especially, I'm talking about bad days. It's very rare that I have bad days, but I have bad points in most days.
Okay.
And it's about understanding that you can't let 5 or 10 minutes of trouble or stress, um, or worry or anxiety or fear turn that into a bad day. That's only 10 minutes. And it's about understanding at the end of that period where something has happened, um, that it's about understanding how you can get rid of that thought, or say put that behind you and move on and understand that there is potential for the rest of the day to be a good
So
day.
you dip into your toolkit, so to speak,
100%.
and you draw out a skill that you've
Yeah,
learned, and now it's almost like second nature to you,
it is.
Patrick,
It is.
to deal with
Yeah,
that. Very good. Very good. You're now employed.
I am.
Uh, you're working full
I
time.
work full time and I love my job.
Very good.
Yeah.
And you're amongst peers, and you're not anxious about work
No,
with the workplace or anything like that.
no,
There, you've really worked very hard, and
100%.
you're a success,
Yeah. From my
fulfilling your life. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Since I left Care Counselling, um, I haven't taken an antidepressant.
Very
But,
good.
and there's some people. That's not to say that you shouldn't.
No, you're just talking about
But
yourself.
I haven't, and
Yes.
it's because I feel like I really was able to. I was taught the skills, and I held on to them,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I use, as you said, I use them every single day. Anytime I need them, I use them. I when I have negative points in my life, I understand that they are just points in time.
yeah, yeah.
You know.
Very helpful. Patrick, the service that Care Counselling offers, we have one member of staff, Joanna, um, and she's paid. But the way the service is offered is she is trained, she is BACP trained, but to gain your qualification to be a counsellor, you gain it by being um, taking on so many hours of therapy
Yeah.
and offering counselling. You're supervised, and then that gets you your accreditation.
Yeah.
The person who was your counsellor,
Yeah.
she was in that situation. She wasn't a fully trained counsellor at that
That's right.
point.
That's right.
She was on her journey to her
Yeah.
qualification.
Yeah.
Um, And so that's still the model we use.
Yeah.
Um, so even though they're on their journey and are still trainees, so to speak,
Yeah.
they're still got lots of skills.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, that girl, um, I hope that people wouldn't think that because these a lot of these people are trainees, that they're not um, able to counsel people, because I am living proof that it works.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I was counselled by the lady who counselled me, and I know that sometimes it takes a bit of work to find a counsellor who is right for you.
Yeah.
I was very lucky
Yeah.
to get this person, and I say that with real honesty. I was very, very lucky to be counselled by the person who counselled me.
Yeah, very good. If there's someone watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, Patrick, and they're thinking about counselling, what would you say to them?
I would say go for it. Um, Make sure that you're ready to commit, because whenever you come to a counselling service like this, you are using a valuable space that you're really welcome to use, but there are people behind you who also need counselling. So whenever you come in and your counsellor asks you to make a commitment to use the service in its entirety for the length of time that you need it, be genuine in your commitment to that. You will undoubtedly walk out the other end of it as a person with far better mental health.
But it's hard work.
It is very hard work. There were days that when I was here, where I felt like I was back at square one. I said earlier, by the time I got here the next week, I felt like I was starting all over again. But I was very lucky that when I felt suicidal, and that sounds really strange, I was lucky when I felt suicidal that when I came here, I was able to speak to my counsellor about why I felt suicidal, and she was able to walk with me. I always say that she didn't make me better. I made me better, but she walked with me, and I always say Care Counselling held my hand through my journey, and that's what they did. And for those little snippets of time where I felt suicidal again, she was there to take my hand along those thoughts, because that's all it is. It's a thought, and she was able to help me understand why I felt the way I felt, why I thought the way I thought, and get me to the other end of it, so that by the end of that session, I was back to looking forward to the next one again. It's not hard, but it's worth it.
Patrick, we really, really appreciate the honesty and the integrity and the courage it is for you to tell your story. You've been a great supporter of Care Counselling, and we in East Belfast Mission are very appreciative of you for sharing your story and making it public through this podcast. So, Patrick, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for watching, listening, and we'll be back again soon with another one of our podcasts of East Belfast Mission Then and Now.